Productive Dentist Academy podcast network.
Your level of success in life really comes back to your belief systems and what you feed your mind through your senses.
Welcome to Investment Grade Practices podcast, where we believe private practice dentists deserve to get the lifestyle today while building an asset for tomorrow. Join your host, Victoria Peterson, to design the practice of your dreams and secure your financial independence. Let's get started.
How many times have you gone to a lecture and from the podium they say it's all about your mindset? Be abundant mindset, don't be scarcity mindset. But what is mindset and how do you develop it and how does it impact your leadership? Welcome to another episode of Investment Grade Practices. I'm Victoria Peterson, your host, and today I am with a very special guest. His name is Dr. Kremer, the author of Quantum Accountability. And what he wrote was a proven playbook to master your mindset. And Kevin, I am so happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Mickey. It's a pleasure. It's really nice to spend the time with you.
Now, you're coming in from Chico, California. I'm coming in from the big island of Hawaii. On the surface, we don't have a lot in common, except both of us, about 20 years ago, met a really interesting character named Tony Robbins. and really went deep into his techniques and mindsets and things like that. So let's just start from ground zero, because I think Tony is just a world icon for mindset shifts and neurolinguistics. So maybe that's a good place to open up this conversation about quantum accountability and the mindset work you do.
Absolutely. It was actually a dental coach that told me about the movie The Secret. And I watched that, and it was about how, they talked about the law of attraction and then how you can kind of create your reality in life. And it starts from who you are and from within. And it takes that belief system that, wait a second, maybe I do have control over my destiny. So I started, you go through your career, and if you're a student of knowledge, you're always wanting to learn and grow, and so you get exceptional at dentistry, and then it's like, well, wait a second, what about everything else? And so I was looking for that mentor, and even though Tony Robbins wasn't in The Secret, I chose him and then kind of went all in on going to his courses and conferences and Master University, and that amongst, like all of us, just learning from a lot of different areas and reading and growing, you kind of build this foundation and understand that, wow, your level of success in life really comes back to your belief systems and what you feed your mind through your senses, what you're constantly looking at, what you're hearing. What are we doing with our time? What are we watching? Are we scrolling social media, or are we engaged in a really good book or learning, and are we spending time with random people, or are we putting ourselves in really powerful peer groups and masterminds? So those have been powerful things over the course of my career.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you were a dentist at the time. What impact did you start noticing as you, say, started feeding your mind different ways and focusing on manifesting your life rather than, like you write in your book, life happens for you, not to you. So what were some of the things that you noticed within your own practice once you adopted this?
Yeah, the more you get clear on exactly where you want to go and what your vision is, the more it starts to come to fruition. So I really spent a lot of time on, what that optimal practice looked like with a comprehensive concierge model. So we built this flagship practice with that looks like an Italian villa when you walk in, and we're in a blue collar town, and then we offer people a cappuccino or a drink of the month, and just we'd have these herbal tonic elixirs in a martini shaker with a martini glass, and so creating these experiences for people, and it just makes it fun. And then when things grow like that, or when you do that, growth happens by design or accident or it occurs. And so then the question becomes, okay, what am I going to do? And it's like, am I going to just kind of flatline and be my own general dentist in this office forever? Or am I going to go help others? And so I started having other doctors interested and asking questions, and reps would come in and say, hey, this doctor really likes what you're doing. He wants to talk to you. Then they're like, hey, will you just buy my practice and I'll work for you? And so we ended up having multiple locations, and then I bring in associates, and so we've built a group of practices here in Northern California, and then it became, gosh, could you mentor and help doctors outside of your own company? So that's where I've started public speaking and sharing the knowledge, and then writing books about it. And we have a second book coming out this fall. That's the second in the trilogy, and so it's fun to share knowledge and to help people at this stage in your career.
At Productive Dentist Academy, we've helped thousands of private practice owners find the clarity inside their data and take control again, starting with a free 60-minute coaching session. Head over to investmentgradepractice.com right now before the next patient sits down to claim your free 60-minute coaching session. That's investmentgradepractice.
I love it so much. All right, before we move on and diving into the book, I've got to ask, how many fire walks did you do?
I think 5.
Wow, you got me beat. I remember the first one almost seemed easy, because you're naive and you're pumped up and you're there and you're just like, yes. And then the second one, I thought, oh, I'm an O pro. And you have to say a full body yes before your foot hits the coal. And I didn't say yes out loud. I just gave them like a water skier's thumbs up. And my foot hit the coal and I felt the heat. And I went, hell yeah. It's like it was a real big yes at that point. And, sure enough, the whole walk I got off and that first foot had burns, but the other foot did not. Now,
Oh my
tell
God.
me, I just use that as evidence of mind over matter, and these intangible pieces have more power than we know, So at first I was committed, but not full body commitment had the consequence. Then instantly, when I had that full body commitment, everything changed. And there's 3 things that I took away from your book. One was quantum accountability, the other one was quantum action, and the third was quantum abundance. So talk to me a little bit about quantum accountability and some of these non-physical influences, your thoughts and things like that, that impact your
Well,
work.
okay, I wanna mention the firewalk since you brought it up, and then I'll get into that. So, I thought I had the same experience. So, you do this firewalk, and it's like, and then you do it, and it's like, "Oh," and then people start talking, "Oh, it's just the coals weren't that hot," or, "Oh, it's really not that big of a deal, da, da, da." And then one time I did it, and we went out to eat somewhere after, even though it's like 1 in the morning or whatever, found a place to have a bite to eat, and my feet, a couple areas were tingling like, "Ooh, wow." And I checked them. I had some burn spots like, "Ooh, you gotta be careful. You really gotta be in state for this." So my wife, we really loved the message. So we took our kids, and our youngest son at the time, I think he was like 11 years old. And it's a big thing, there's a lot of fear to overcome. And at the time, at that one, I think it was down in Miami, and Tony had Pitbull come on stage, and he's singing the whole fire song and all of that, and he's singing on stage right before, and he gave a talk about how his aunt would drive him to school, and she's listening to these silly Tony Robbins tapes. And he said, "What is this guy?" And then he talked about how it was so influential in his life. So we all get up to the firewalk that night, and we're going in order. And my youngest son's going first, and he pulls off to the side and doesn't go. And then I go, and my wife goes, other kids go, and he's not going. Then all of a sudden he steps in and he does it. After you come through, you're cheering and celebrating. And we said, "Hey, Luke, what was it? What got into you?" He goes, "You know what? I I wasn't gonna do it, but then I was listening to Pitbull, and his message was on stage that sometime you just gotta get up there and say, 'F it,'" and he's a little kid, so he didn't say the real F word, but
Well, that's
but
good.
it was really cute for a little 11-year-old to go like, have this moment of overcoming fear. And I think that's important in mindset is a lot of times we second guess ourselves, we overthink ourselves, and then we let self-derived fear get in the way of really taking action towards some really powerful, meaningful goals in life. So what you mentioned with quantum accountability, quantum action, and quantum abundance is what I call the quantum awareness model. And the reason I call it quantum is essentially it's it's things out there that we don't comprehend with our normal senses. We don't smell it, we don't see it, we don't hear it, but it's this energy, this vibration, this frequency. And then if we go too deep into the physics of it, people get kind of, ooh, this guy's kind of woo woo, new agey or something. So the gist of it is that there's something out there, okay, in the ether, if you will, that exists that helps dictate our life. And the accountability is in really taking, we can't see our thoughts, we can't see our beliefs or what we're thinking. But if we own those or take accountability for those, and then we start to really derive what is important in those belief systems and those virtues, then that will determine what action steps we take in life. So the action is really where the rubber hits the road in life. And that's what our second book is called, Quantum Action. And I have a whole playbook in that on how you build your life and how you daily move towards the life you want to go, starting with determining your living obituary, your core values, and what's really foundationally important to you as a sense of purpose, and then breaking it into specific categories, and then drilling down from there and putting a monthly, weekly, daily cadence into it. So you do that. If you do the mindset work, and then you take the right action steps, the outcome and result of that is the abundance that you receive in life. And that's what I call the quantum awareness model. And it's this revolving, never ending flow of energy and thoughts and choices and actions in our life.
I love that. And I know you mentor so many doctors and teams. When you first meet people and they're going through this work, how many do you have to say, have you ever questioned your thoughts? Like, do you have, I have a feeling that people go through life, I have a thought, it must be true, rather than learning that it's okay to question your thoughts. Do
Yeah,
you coach?
ma- a plastic surgeon, and what was it in the 50s, Maxwell Maltz wrote this great book on, and it was called Psycho Cybernetics. So here's this plastic surgeon that's doing like nose. Have you read it?
No, but I want
So
to.
he's doing nose jobs and all of this and these different things. And what he found is like some people would come in and they would hate themselves, and he'd do plastic surgery and make them beautiful. They still hated themselves. Other people maybe had a bigger nose than normal, but it was acceptable and they loved who they were. So he talked about this concept of the self-image. And one thing that I think it was really important for me to learn, and is important for people, is to understand that we are not our thoughts, and we don't have to subscribe to all of them. If we kind of let them fly through, and we can choose what we're going to grasp and focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing that out. I don't think that we can repeat that often enough, you know? And, uh, I think that was probably one of the biggest things I learned from Tony was to be bold with pattern interrupts. When someone is just in this negative, "I can't, I won't, they won't, we won't, da-da, I'm hanging at the end of my rope," you know? I'm like, "Well, what color's your rope?"
Right.
And
Yeah.
is it tied around your foot? Are you swinging? Are you going out across a river? And they're like, "Well, it's not that kind of rope." And I was like, "All right, well, now let's have a better conversation. What is it really?" Like, you realize you're not hanging from a rope. Uh,
And I think that's like when I you know look at potential dentists for our Abundant Dentist Academy, is I want to do consultation with them first to see if they qualify, because certain people, they're stuck in this victim mindset, where it's the poor me. So Carol Dweck, wrote the book, and she talked about growth versus fixed mindset. Well, we took that in our book and created this mindset continuum where fixed is in the middle, and above that is optimism, and then growth, and then abundance. And below that is pessimism, then scarcity, then victim. And some people just like to sit around and wallow in their poor me and oh my gosh. And you know what? You are not going to get anywhere in life if you're stuck there. And it's just, oh, and you're full of excuses or reasons why things didn't happen. And I got to tell you, some of the most wealthy and most successful people I know, something really bad happened to them in their childhood, and they overcame it and took it as fuel for huge success. So that mindset is where it all starts.
It's like you're looking at my list of questions. I was gonna ask you about this mindset continuum from victim to abundance. You explained that so well. And is that in the Quantum Accountability book, or is that coming out in your next?
No, it is in that first book.
Okay, I love it. Well, take us home to me more like in practice. So accountability is a really big buzzword. What makes what makes your book quantum? What is quantum accountability? How is that different?
So the quantum for an average person, and whatever the definition is, but to simplify it and make it understandable, it's taking the time to think about and construct. Okay, um, I'll say that in another relation to that, Angus Fletcher, Ohio State, just wrote Primal Intelligence. And there's all this about AI right now, and AI is going to take over the world and robots and all that. And maybe it's going to happen. His argument is that there are certain intelligences. I jokingly, when people are talking about AI, I'll talk about, well, HI is going to do this, human intelligence, right? So there are certain things humans are better at, and if you can't convert it to a 0 or a 1, so human intelligence is, his argument is, it's common sense, it's imagination, and it's creativity. The point I'm trying to make is, if you start there and you think about where your creativity, your imagination, and put down on paper ideas, or that like sometimes in the morning when your mind's maybe still in theta, do some journaling and start to compile these things, and then use that into where you want to go in your life and how you direct it. So that's how I would define the quantum, is taking, whether you're you've got sensory antennas, or your thoughts or whatever, and what's coming to you as a receiver of information, and then what of that is like really resonates with you, and then, okay, I want that to be a part of my life.
Yeah, I love that. I've experienced that in my own life where you're ruminating on something and you set the intention before you go to bed. I always go to bed and I call on my angels of health. Thank you for which all of this is internal really, but thank you for the miracles that are happening in my body. I know that when I rest and I sleep, my cells are being restored, my body is being restored. So thank you for the sleep I know I will have so that you can do your work. I give my angels, I give spirit, I give the quantum field, I give it instructions. Like, thank you. That's my mindset is you're here for my benefit, I'm here for your benefit. Let's work together on that. And then I also, if I'm working on a big problem or I'm stuck or I'm really afraid of things, I'll put that mindset seed of, as I'm in dream time tonight, reorganize my thought patterns so that I wake up refreshed with different ways of looking at this. And I think that's a quantum activity of believing in the power of like AI will never. You mentioned it is not creative. It's not imaginative. It has learned what we have taught it, but it doesn't know everything we know, and it hasn't yet captured our souls. So as long as I'm analog, I'm breathing, I'm biological, I may lose my job, I may lose my house, I may lose everything materially, but source is my source. Created it once, you can create it again. So that creativity piece was what really drew me to your work. And one of the things that I gathered from it is to have that level of accountability and freedom in your thinking. There's a word in Hawaii called ho'oponopono, which I'm sure you're familiar or
You're just gonna bring that up, beat me to it.
I told you we were twin spirits, so uh, you call that out in your book and say, this level of accountability, this conversation with yourself, because this isn't about holding others accountable or you as a coach holding anybody accountable. This is a conversation with yourself. And so take us into that concept of ho'oponopono.
So, I have this on my desk right here, all right? And, this says, "I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you." All right? And, yeah, Dr. Hewlin, in when he worked with the, mentally psych ward and used that technique was beautiful. So, when I look at, like, my 3 most important virtues, um thank you is gratitude. Okay. So if we are, attitude of gratitude, or if we're in a state of gratitude, we're focusing on what's right with something rather than what's wrong. I love you is love, which is arguably the most powerful virtue in the world. Some might say, if you look at David Hawkins' work, and he might say joy is higher than love, but um, uh, we don't need to argue about that. They're both amazing. So, and then please forgive me and I'm sorry is forgiveness, right? And forgiveness is huge. And whether you're, regardless of your religion, or whether you're Christian or whatnot, I tell my wife, it's not my job to judge people, and it's like, if we can forgive other people and forgive ourselves for things, it's so funny. Like, every political, religious wars, this or that, it's all over people battling over what they think is right, rather than being in a state of love, gratitude, and forgiveness. And I don't know, it's the whole concept of just having some sort of a mantra of what you're going to say to yourself and what you're going to focus on is powerful. And I got to tell you, leadership is all about balancing, like, okay, well, what if your team member does something that's really inappropriate and you've trained them and they should know better? How do you forgive them versus writing them up? And something, the concept of tough love, or people holding people accountable, is you have to understand the difference. And, I feel, my belief system is we're all on this quest. Our life is a quest, and the opportunity is to learn and grow and improve and help others. And I'm at this stage in my life and my career where my primary question now is, how can I help you? And so I want to be able to help other people. And I'm still growing. I still struggle with it. I can have, days where I'm not the best boss to my team, or whatnot. And I'm, CEO, have to, like, go in and make some difficult decisions, but yeah, that phrase I carry with me in my wallet, and I pull it out and I read it to myself. I was texting it earlier today, and it's part of my life.
Yeah. And I think that is forgiveness, self-forgiveness, compassion is a really difficult thing for people, particularly if you've gone through the gauntlet of scientific education and precision, and yeah, you fail because you didn't put floss around a rubber dam, like everything, the outcome was beautiful, but you're wrong, like, dental school just to me, I'm not a dentist, I was a hygienist, but it seemed like, um, it really taught you how to highlight what's not working, what's wrong, and develop that critical eye, which is so needed. I mean, you're doing replacement body parts in a really sensitive area of the body. I want you as my surgeon to be really precise.
Yeah.
But it's hard to turn that off when things don't go well in our lives, and we blame our I hear it all the time, doctors say, "Well, I'm just not a really good leader," and this and that. I think dentists are great leaders, and they don't give themselves enough credit. It is incredibly hard. I know you owned multiple practices, as you said. I actually thought it was fun. I use the word fun. After all the years of being a coach and a consultant and starting an ad agency, I thought, "This is great. I'm now gonna conquer the one thing I haven't, which was owning dental practices." So, I don't do anything little. I bought 3 in the same month, and then I had 2 more in the wings that I closed on within 6 months, and you'll love this, I lived in Seattle, and they were located in Wisconsin. Like, so I am a long distance new owner of practices, and to make it even more interesting, we were replacing legacy doctors like yourself with first-year dental school graduates. So, service mix changed, ownership changed, all of that, and what an interest. I had so many opportunities to forgive myself. Because I was making mistakes left and right because it was a totally different environment, and at one point, one of my regional manager who was just a really amazing person, and she's still with the company. I exited in 2018 with 5 locations, and they've now grown it to 16, and I think that's a really good mark for the structure that was put in place, but at some point, she said, "You really do have to stop being so hard on yourself."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're doing the best you can with what you have. So, if anybody is out there right now and they're being a little too hard on themselves, and in dentistry, we get hard, like we don't do anything little. We're gonna go all in on it. And some people, you know, choose to make permanent decisions, to things that are almost always temporary. So if someone's out there struggling with all of this and leadership and forgiveness, and this all sounds like really pretty words, Victoria and Kevin living in Chico, California and Hawaii, easy for you. What would you say to those that might be on that scarcity victim hurting kind of phase right now?
Well, I actually just spoke at a dental school a couple weeks ago in the area to the upcoming graduating class, and I I like working with young doctors because they haven't developed bad habits. I'll work with some doctors that are 5, 10, 20 years out, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, wow, you've been practicing this way for 20 years." And it's like, so I like the young doctors, and this is I told them, and I'll talk to other docs who've been out a while. "Oh, these new grads, they've like watched one root canal and that's it." They've done more than that. But the thing is if it's the right type of person, I can teach them more of the skill. But what's great about the young doctors is if they are open to learn, and they are, and they're looking for mentorship, and they soak it up like a sponge. And it's like, you talk about being hard on yourself. We have a monthly study club here in town, and all of our doctors attend, and they'll go, "Oh gosh, this happened," and it happens to all of us where, oh, um, an implant failed, or this crown fractured, or person's having sensitivity after a composite. And I walk them through them and reassure them. It's really good for them to hear that, "Oh yeah, I've had that happen tons of times. And here's how we approach it. This is the way we look at it. This is how we communicate it." And then you can see them kind of like, ah. So it's just surrounding yourself around people that you can share knowledge with, and people that can give you good advice and help you see that, "Oh, okay, that's not so bad. That happens to everybody." So it's the whole thing about, don't be too hard on yourself, love yourself, um, and be humble about it, but know that they call it a dental practice for a reason, right? That's what they would always say. we're constantly improving and getting better. So
Well, thanks for bringing us the mental practice to go along with it. That's amazing. Oh, it has been such a pleasure having you here. I've saved the most interesting question for last. You co-wrote this book with your wife, Kelly.
Mhm.
So, what was it like building the framework together? How did your tell us about her background? How did that fit together to shape this book?
Oh my gosh. So um Kelly's a master's in education with a bachelor's in psychology and development. So she's got a lot of background in this kind of stuff and the mental side of things. And um if you know the Colby at all, I'm a quick start and she's a follow through. So we're like yin and yang sometimes. It's perfect when it works, but also sometimes it's like you're butting heads and going back and forth. So it's a real it's been fun and it's
So you're like, let's go. And she's like,
Yeah.
slow your roll, man, slow it
All
down.
right, I'm like, I wanna just get going, and she's like, and so
Too
there's
many priorities.
good mesh there, but it's been really cool, and we actually just got the second book to the editor a couple of weeks ago, um, to get to publisher for the fall, but yeah, I think we're a good duo with those things. And I wrote that book, or we wrote it for the masses because it's not just for doctors or dentists, but I do my mentoring and coaching in dentistry specific because I know both those foundations of success and how to run successful dental practices and the business side and all of that too. So as you do, Victoria.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. The concept of investment grade came about because it was more than the financial. Investment is, like priest, and when you go into sacred ceremony, you put your vestment on. And so it really is a holistic way of looking at life. It's a holistic way of who you are and how you show up is going to influence everything around you, particularly your dental practice, more than the systems that we might build. So the systems give you the framework, but how you show up. And you've just given us so much to think about here today and dawning vesting ourselves, investing in our mindsets, investing in compassion for ourselves, investing in people, that you surround yourself with. So, oh, that's right, Copay. My dog likes that too. So, Kevin, why don't you tell people, what you're up to and how they could reach out and connect with you if they want to get started doing.
Sure. Yeah. So, our new All on X Dental Implant Surgery Center that we built, also as a training institute. So, we have digital workflow for All on X and do some implant training. But I'm not really I'm not. My niche isn't to train people on how to be a great clinical implantologist or dentist. We create what we call super GPs in our company and in our academy. So mine is more about discovering that person where they are, really help them discover where they want to go in life and help them to get there. And that often includes being a more productive dentist and having more efficient systems and all of those things. So part of our Kremer Leadership Institute is the Abundant Dentist Academy, and I think we're kindred spirits on that, Victoria. And we both know, through collaboration, there's plenty of people to help in the world, and so people can go to abundantdentist.com to learn about more about that, and they can choose book a Calendly for a 30-minute complimentary call where we can just chat and see if I can help them in any way. Um, and then, the second book will be coming out in the fall. And the first one was featured in USA Today and became an Amazon bestseller. So that was really cool. Um, so I will continue to mentor and lead and help in any way I can on this quest that we call life. And I can tell Victoria that you're a very kind, compassionate soul, and it radiates out of who you are. So it's been a pleasure spending this time with you.
Well, thank you so much. Quantum accountability, if you don't already have that on your bookshelf, please go to Amazon right now and purchase that. It is going to change your life. I loved I have skimmed it and I've summarized it. Now I'm ready to do my deep dive on it.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for this episode of Investment Grade Practices. Kevin, it was such a pleasure having you here today.
My pleasure. It was wonderful to talk to you.
At Productive Dentist Academy, we've helped thousands of private practice owners find the clarity inside their data and take control again, starting with a free 60-minute coaching session. Head over to investmentgradepractice.com right now before the next patient sits down to claim your free 60-minute coaching session. That's investmentgradepractice.com.